Welcome to From the Shed End with myself, Theo. As always, thank you very much for joining the channel. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, make sure you interact with us as well. And yeah, make sure you give the video a thumbs up as well. Make sure you do all of those things for us. Now, before we get into today's video, we can only really start with one place really. This is obviously a Tottenham preview, Chelsea-Tottenham preview, but there's only one place to start really today. That is, of course, the announcements that came out earlier on this week, Monday, that Thiago Silva will be leaving Chelsea Football Club this season. One that I think a lot of people possibly were thinking was going to happen anyway, with obviously the news that he was going to come to an end. I think that was quite the best kept secret ever at Chelsea. But for him to officially announce it, I think came as the inevitable happened for most Chelsea fans, knowing that he was going to leave. He wasn't going to be at the club after next year. We spoke about that on our latest episode of the podcast, I think last week as well, around, offering potentially another year, another deal. But yeah, seeing Thiago Silva go will be a massive loss for Chelsea. I think it's one of those ones that if we, losing him will be mental. I don't think we'll know until he's gone really how much of a loss it will be for Chelsea to not have someone like Thiago Silva, the experience that he's brought into that team. Just the youngsters that we've got coming through, Colwell, Fofana, Dazazi, Badiashile, anyone else that comes in as well, maybe Trevor Chalobah if we do keep him. But to lose Silva, even in an experience like capacity, in terms of having him in the back room, having him as part of the backroom staff, I think that's going to be a massive loss for us next season as well. And I know there was talk, and I think there's a couple of reports that came out to say that Silva has been doing his UEFA license B. His B license, and he's been working almost alongside Maurizio Pochettino in terms of giving advice to some of the younger players in the team. But yeah, massive. He's going to be a massive loss. I think when he's not around anymore, a lot of those defenders that we're talking about, Colwell, Badiashile, Fofana, they're going to have to step up now. They've got to step up next season. There's no ifs or buts. There's no guarantee that we're going to bring in another centre-back as well in the summer. So the defenders that we've got have to step up. They have to step up now. There's no ifs or buts. And I remember saying last year about Koulibaly, I felt maybe he was the player that we brought in to take over from Thiago Silva and be that person that we could maybe pass the baton over in terms of that experience to someone else who's played at the top level, played it for Napoli, Serie A, played in the Champions League, played at, top level for club and country. And for obvious reasons, it didn't work out for Koulibaly. He moved on. He went elsewhere. He's in the Saudi league now. But for me, Silva, yes, slowed down the game. You could see that obviously the injuries were creeping in a lot more. If you think back to the 2 seasons ago, when he first joined, he wasn't picking up as many injuries, but he was still playing a lot of the games. But obviously as you get older, your body, speaks to you in different ways. And clearly his body was telling him it might be time for him to not be as competitive throughout a season. And I think, it's our loss and someone else's gain. He's obviously come out in his statement and said that he isn't retiring. He feels he's still got more time to go elsewhere. Both of his kids are in the Chelsea academy as well. So you would hope maybe, and I think the parting, one of the parting things that he said in his statement on Monday was that he wants to hopefully return. This isn't a good buy at Chelsea. He wants to return to the club in some capacity in the next couple of years. So you would think he wants to stay in England. He wants to stay in London. The 2 clubs I think me and Theo spoke about last week was around maybe Fulham, Brentford. Obviously Fluminense is another team that he's always flirted with the idea of going back to Brazil and finishing his career there. So there could be that option where he goes to Brazil, his family stay in London, and then he comes back after that to maybe have a coaching role at the club at Chelsea. yet to be seen. But he's definitely gonna be a massive gap at Chelsea now. And defensively we've struggled. I think we've let in the most goals we've ever let in the Premier League history in our time in the Premier League this season. That's gonna get worse if some of these players that I'm talking about do not step up and become part of that solid foundation of the spine at the back for the team. They've got to do it. There's no ifs or buts, and Pochettino has to put his trust in these players. He really does. He really has to start looking at some of these players and putting his trust in them and working with them off the pitch. He has to start working with them better on the pitch, whether that means bringing in an alternative coaching staff. We've got one of the best centre-backs that's ever played in the Premier League, and he's not even, for me personally, maybe this is me just thinking outside the box, or maybe it's not even a possibility right now, but when you've got someone like John Terry who's currently working with the under-18 squad at Chelsea, there's a question to be asked. When we're struggling defensively, we're losing the experience of Thiago Silva, as a player in that back line next season. There's a question to be asked why we're not using arguably the best Premier League defender that's ever been in the Premier League, John Terry, in the under-18s, when we could be utilising him in our senior squad as a defensive coach. Let me know what you think about that. But for me personally, I think I'd want to see John Terry maybe come into the senior squad coaching setup and start looking after this squad that we've got now in terms of the defenders. Even a Malagusto, Ben Chilwell, still relatively, in that bracket where he's still got time to learn and develop his game. Marco Correa, heavily criticised this season. There needs to be someone in that training setup, that coaching setup, that can get these players on the right page next season, because we can't go through another season of turmoil, unexpected results, inconsistent results. We can't do that next season, because as I said last week, and I've said before on here, other teams are going to be increasing their experience. They're going to be bringing in better players. They're going to be wanting, their objectives are going to be getting higher and higher. And ours seem to be dropping lower and lower. So, I think we have to definitely be able to match, if not, be better than the rivals that we've got in the league before we start slipping away from that top 6 bracket of clubs, and we start becoming one of those mid-table teams, which is what I've dubbed us on here before. But Thiago Silva leaving is massive. I don't think people, obviously the statement came out, and a lot of people, rightfully so, called him a legend, which I think he is. World-class defender, the Rolls Royce, all of those things. But I don't think people have really woken up to the fact of what that means for us next season. Massive for us. Massive for us next season. We have to get that right. If we don't, it's going to be a long season in defence for those defenders. Massive. Let's talk about the game tomorrow. Obviously, we've got a big game tomorrow. Battle of the Bridge Part 2. Mauricio Pochettino, as it stands at the moment, is currently doing his press conference. Let's try and see some of the things that he's saying in that press conference at the moment. To start off with, it seems every week we're losing players. I don't know how that's happening. I don't know how we're managing to lose players. We should be getting players off that injury list. We seem to be adding to it at this time of the season. One game a week and we're still adding players to the injury list. So the new names added on there, as expected, Thiago Silva. Has he played his last game of the season? I hope not. I want to see Thiago Silva in the Bournemouth game, in the Bournemouth lineup, last game at Stamford Bridge. I want to see him there. I think there was talk of him hopefully being ready for that game. I'm going to be honest, even if he's not ready for that game and he's not fully fit, I think he still needs to play it. And I think he needs to either play 80, 85, 90% of that game and get a standing ovation, last couple of minutes into the game, allow him his time to come off, his moment to come off. But, Theo, I think, suggested maybe playing him, for 6 minutes, but I think he should be playing at least a big chunk of that game. Give him his standing ovation, give him a final farewell as a Chelsea player, and then let him go out at the top like he should. It's a shame that he hasn't been able to win at Wembley for us. He hasn't been able to finish his career at Chelsea with a trophy, which I think he would have, you could see how upset he was after the City game and what it meant to him. But yeah, Thiago Silva on that injury list was an expected injury. But Axel Disasi is now on the list as well, undergoing medical assessments. So let's just reel off the list of names that we've got currently on our list of injuries at the moment. We've got Levi Colwell, who's back in training, so maybe on the bench for tomorrow. I doubt it, but maybe. Christopher Nkunku, back in training again, team training. Again, another one. If he's not fully fit, let's just write his season off. Let's not try and force him back into the team. Let's not try and make him, play any more minutes than he needs to. I personally don't want to see that. I want to see him back fully fit next season. He needs to have a really good preseason, and we need to have him fully fit for next season. So if he's not fit, I mean, these games now are almost nothing games. They're nothing games for us. That doesn't mean anything to us. It doesn't mean that we're, we need fully fit players next season. And if we're not going to get them, then I don't know. We could be looking at another season like we had this season and the season before. So for me, Nkunku should not be anywhere near that lineup tomorrow. Not on the bench. Should not be. I don't even want to see him on the team bus. Go and sit in the stands and enjoy the game from there tomorrow. I think he should be there. Reece James, Robert Sanchez, Raheem Sterling, Leslie Ogunchukwu are all in partial team training. Again, all four of those players. I mean, Robert Sanchez has had a howler of a season when you think about how well he started for us, and then the injury, and he just hasn't been able to get out of that treatment room. So it'd be interesting to see how, obviously, Petrovic has come in. He's done relatively well. I've liked him, but is he the standard that we need going into next season? Probably not for me. Is Sanchez 100% not for me? So it kind of asks the question, do we need to prioritize the area of the pitch in terms of signings in the summer? For me, 100% yes. Reece James, another one, partial training. I know there's a couple of people in the fan base that want Reece James back in the team, want him on the bench, want him back involved in his final games. What's the point? Ask yourself, what is the point in rushing Reece James, who we know, again, very much like Nkunku, we're going to need next season. We want him fully fit. I think he's had that surgery, so we want to see him. We want to see him back in contention, playing for us properly. Not 90%, not 75%. I want 100% Reece James fully fit next season, so he can't be in that team for me tomorrow. Raheem Sterling, another one I think has just been burnt out. He's played a lot of football, but we're going to have to, looks like we're going to have to play Mudryk on the left side tomorrow. Ogunchukwu, again, another one that's been missing. Axel Disasi, Thiago Silva, both out for tomorrow. Maurizio Pochettino's confirmed that. Carney Chukwuemeka's still out. We know Enzo's out. Chilwell, Gusto, Wesley Fofana, and Romeo Lavia are all still out under the currently going through their rehabilitation programs. So, I mean, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players out injured. We've got half the team out injured. We need to bring back Eva. We need to bring Eva back, bring her back into the fold. Chelsea Football Club need to apologise to her and bring her back, because ever since she left, the injuries have been a mess. They've been an absolute mess at the club. So, that just sums up where we are this season. Couple of things that came out at the press conference. So, Maurizio Pochettino's confirmed no players have recovered in time from last week's injury list. So that means that Thiago Silva and Disasi have been added to that. He spoke about Thiago Silva's departure. He said he's an amazing guy, an amazing professional. He's had an amazing career. Of course, the player, the fans, the clubs will miss him. He's happy and so proud of his career at Chelsea. He's spoken about the challenges in terms of tomorrow's game. So every single game is a challenge for us. Now we have tomorrow a big challenge. Tottenham is a great team. Obviously, Pochettino going back to his old club as well. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a nice game to play. I don't know why he thinks that after the games that he's watched under us, but there we have it. It's going to be a great opportunity for some of the young kids to be on the bench and have a possibility to play. So he's kind of alluded to the fact in there that we won't see, obviously, some of those names I mentioned, the Reece James and Nkunku on the bench. We might see a very inexperienced, youthful team, very much like we did against Aston Villa last weekend. So, I'm all for that, giving some of the youngsters an opportunity now to come in and show what they can do. Maurizio Pochettino on the spending cap in the Premier League. He's put, I wasn't involved. I'm not involved. I don't know which is the right answer. That worries me a little bit. I mean, he should be involved in those conversations, whether he wants to be or not. You know, the owners have to involve the manager in these situations. For me personally, this is what worries me about Pochettino. The owners, I feel they've just brought him in because they know they don't. I mean, there was something that came out last week to say that Maurizio Pochettino hasn't spoken to the owners for over 2 months. I mean, to me, that's a massive red flag. How can you be an owner of a club and still not have a line of communication with the man that is managing your day-to-day business of your club? That's mental. Where do they do that? They don't do that anywhere. No business can run like that. It doesn't matter what you're in, whether it's football or mechanics. There has to be a line of communication between the owner and the manager. Don't get that one at all. Yeah, he speaks a bit more on the Spurs game. Yeah, Spurs fixture. He said it was special when we played there because it was my first time. Now it's a different thing. It's always emotional because we meet people we worked with. But like I told everyone before, we want to win. Yeah, he doesn't fill me with joy. He speaks on Ange Postecoglou as well. You know, he recovers the hope for Spurs and the fans, so he's done well. They're playing very good football. It's always difficult when you arrive to another country. He's doing a fantastic job. He's obviously talking about the Battle of the Bridge as well. So I remember really well 2016 Battle of the Bridge. Fabregas, Hazard, what a team Chelsea was back then. They were not doing a fantastic season. One game, they compete. They know how to compete. It was a tough game. This is the reverse fixture this season he's talking about here. It was a tough game. Hopefully the positive things will be on our side tomorrow. It's really important for us to get 3 points. The improvement of VAR. So they asked Maurizio Pochettino in a press conference today about VAR. We need to improve the VAR. We need to try and improve the way in which we assess and inform the fans. Everything is changing and we cannot change the evolution of technology. VAR is here. If we can improve, it's very welcomed. So, and then he's put about the injuries as well. We all feel responsibility. There's too many circumstances. It's difficult to explain within one sentence. We're working to improve. We have an amazing medical staff. I don't know about that one, Maurizio. I don't think the medical staff's amazing, I'll be honest, but he knows better than I do. Tomorrow's fixture, crucial, massive. Not just in terms of the game, what it means. As Maurizio said then, 2016, big game. You know, if you remember back to that Battle at the Bridge, it was a massive, massive game for us. Albeit Leicester won the league, but we had a massive say in it. And I feel like we can still have a massive say in this season as well. Obviously, Tottenham still pushing for that top 4 finish. Villa, again, doing exactly the same. Villa dropping points against us at the weekend. Spurs, again, opportunity for us to take some points off them. And it's always good to take points off Spurs. But I think the lineup will pretty much predict itself and pick itself, I think, based on how we are, where we are with injuries as well. But we have to see. I mean, I'm gonna share the lineup I have gone with, and obviously we'll get Theo's, who's traveling in the next 24 hours away, but we'll get Theo's predicted lineup as well before he does depart for Portugal. But I've gone for, obviously, Zazie potentially would have been in my team. Yeah, that's actually the wrong lineup, which is very annoying. So ignore that. Let's not go with that. But my lineup would be, well, no, let's put that up. But obviously Silva won't be in there. Silva won't be in there. Badiashile will be in the team for me in terms of, obviously, now Zazie's out, Silva's out. So yeah, I think for me, I would go with Alfie Gilchrist at right back, Trevor Chalobah centre back with Badiashile. Obviously, Thiago Silva's there in error, but I'd go with him. I'd go with Marc Cucurella as well as my left back. Obviously, Petrovic in goal. Gallagher and Caicedo, I thought, played amazing against Aston Villa at the weekend. I was really impressed with them together, side by side. We're limited with options, obviously. Enzo's out for the season. Carney Chukwuemeka's out now as well. He's not fit enough for the game tomorrow. So for me, I'd have to go with those two, Caicedo, Gallagher, as the two in the middle. Palmer ahead of them. Again, Sterling would not be in this team, so this is before we understood that they weren't going to be in the team. But Mudryk would be on the left side for me, Nicholas Jackson up front with Noni Madueke on the right as well. So that would be my lineup as well. I'd have to go with that. It's going to be a tricky game because Spurs are a tricky team this season to play against. You know, Ange Postecoglou loves to have that high line. You know, he loves to play on the front foot. He wants his defenders to play on the halfway line. You know, with Timo Werner, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we saw Kai Havertz, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you know, come back and haunt us. Timo Werner could do exactly the same as well. Kulusevski, another big threat as well. Son in the middle. You know, James Maddison there as well. So they've got some really good players and they play really good football. And I think at the moment with Spurs, you can't really tell which Spurs is going to turn up. And I think for us, we just have to be prepared for the better Spurs is going to turn up. The Spurs that can get 3 points from you. So, you know, our defense has to be. I mean, I keep banging on about defense because, you know, that's for me the key area that needs the most improvement in this team overall. But we have to get the team right in terms of that defensive line. And we're restricted, you know, with Disasi out now, Silva's out, you know, Chalobah, Badiashile have to step up. They have to step up and play well in that centre-back partnership. You know, they have to. They've got no choice. Gilchrist, I think, will have to have an amazing game. Yeah, he has to have an amazing game. He has to, you know. And I think one area I think I probably would look at maybe considering swapping maybe throughout the game, depending on the score, depending on the performance, would be Washington. I think we need to see a bit of Washington before the end of the season. And I think if we're 2-0 up, 3-0 up, then maybe we bring him on for Jackson. Maybe. I'd maybe even take Mudryk off, put Jackson to the left and put Washington as the striker, depending on how things are going. Because I think there is an opportunity now for us to test Nicholas Jackson in a more suited role, which some people have said is more towards the left, on the left wing, where Mudryk's occupying at the moment. You know, I think maybe he needs to play there. Maybe we need to see Jackson maybe more so on the left. And maybe we bring Washington in, you know, second half, you know, 60, 70, 80 minutes into the game. Just give him a run out and see what he can do. Because we spent 20 million on a player and we haven't necessarily seen, or we haven't seen hardly any of him. So I think we need to see what Washington's about in the next couple of games, give him the opportunity. If he's not up to the standards just yet, then at least we know next season we need to loan him out. And this is the time for me. Like I said, these games for me now, yes, I think we can still get Conference League football, I think, at a push, but these are nothing games to me at the moment. These are games where we need to experiment, you know. And if we had the centre-backs back fully fit, I'd also want to see Pochettino possibly play 5 at the back, because I think that's the formation he might have to go back to next season, especially with Thiago Silva departing. If we don't bring in any centre-backs, I think that has to be one of the plan Bs. Maybe the main option, maybe the plan A, is to go back to 3 centre-backs. That gives a bit more luxury for Cucurella, for Chilwell on the left side, Gusto on the right, Reece James on the right, to play a bit more forward in those advanced roles in the defensive line as well. And I think we might have to go back to that. We played some of our best football under Conte, you know, under Frank Lampard as well at the time, under those formations where we had 3 centre-backs. You know, even Thomas Tuchel, to an extent, sometimes played 3 at the back. So I think, you know, we might have to look at maybe incorporating Fofana, Disasi, Badiashile into that back line and playing them there, and then giving those the wing backs more flexibility to go forward. I think we might have to do that next season. So if we had the centre-backs fit enough this season, I'd want to see that in this part of for me anyway, I'd want to see it in the remaining fixtures. Just start tweaking with the squad a little bit and testing a couple of things out where we can. And for me, one of those is the 5 at the back, which we can't do at the moment. But with Washington, we can definitely trial him. We can definitely put him into the team if we're winning. You know, 3-0, a nice comfortable win in the second half against Spurs tomorrow. Let's bring on Washington and let's see what he can do. Let's see if he needs to be in the squad or if he needs to be out of the squad. Because there's a lot of players, don't forget, we've got on loan as well. I was watching Amari Hutchinson the weekend and also last night as well against Coventry. Brilliant. I think we can integrate him. I've seen enough of Amari Hutchinson to say he has a role to play at Chelsea next season. Let's start thinking about next season already, and that's what we should be doing as Chelsea fans. Not dwelling on where we are now. Where we are is where we are. But let's start thinking about next season. Let's start thinking about the players we want to see in this team, in our starting 11s. Who do we need to send out on a loan? Who do we need to keep? You know, Ugunchukwu's potentially another one I'd probably look at loaning out next season. We won't know that until he's injury free and we can see what he can do in pre-season. But Amari Hutchinson, we can keep him. There's one player I do not want to see at this club. I have to mention him because he was all over Twitter yesterday and it was frustrating me. Is Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish cannot be anywhere near this Chelsea squad. Is he better than Mudryk? 1,000,000% he is better than Mudryk. He's even arguably, in some ways, on par with Raheem Sterling. But that's it. He's on par with Raheem Sterling. I want to see players, the players we've brought in, Amari Hutchinson's and etc.'s, give them an opportunity. Let's not go and spend big. I mean, Jack Grealish is, I think he's on close to 300 grand a week. I think 300 grand a week. He's not going to be cheap. He was a £100 million player. City are not going to sell him for 25 million. So if we have to go out and replace anybody, we should be looking in that defensive line first. I think we should be looking at maybe bringing in a bit more experience in that back line. I think the goalkeeper situation is still a big issue. You know, Lukaku looks like he might be going to Saudi. I'm already talking about Nicholas Jackson maybe playing off the left side of the front three. So we're going to have to maybe look at striker options as well. Me bringing in, or the club bringing in Jack Grealish, to me doesn't make any sense. Because we have players already that we're struggling to incorporate into a team with Mudryk. Raheem Sterling hasn't been the best of his form this season. Why add to that? And let's be honest, Jack Grealish, I mean, maybe I'm going out, maybe I'm just one of the oddballs here, but he's actually a horrible player to watch. He cuts in. He's a predictable player, a very predictable player. He cuts in. He doesn't use his left leg at all. In fact, if you're watching this, the next time you watch Man City and Jack Grealish is playing, just watch how many times he doesn't use his left foot at all. And I'm talking about just passing the ball, dribbling with the ball, beating his man on his left side. He can't do it. He cuts in on his right every single time. He will be the most frustrating Chelsea player if we was to ever sign him, probably since Mikhailo Mudryk, actually. So, no. For me, Jack Grealish is a massive no. Let's stay away from signing players because they've got a big name or they come with a big price tag. We've learned that the hard way. We've splashed out on Enzo. We've splashed out on Caicedo. Big money signings hasn't really worked. Cucurella was still the. Let's remind everyone, Cucurella is the most expensive left back in the world, and he still hasn't proved himself yet. So let's not add to the mess that we've got already at the club. Let's start incorporating some of the younger players that we've brought in, especially if we miss out on European football next season, which is the most likely outcome of this season. Let's start giving these players the opportunity to get themselves into this team, and if they're not good enough, then let's loan them out or try and get rid of them. That's the only answers I've got for that situation with Jack Grealish. Let's not add, let's get rid of. Let's get rid of and bring in some of the younger players that we've brought into the squad already. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Massive game tomorrow. I'm gonna go for 2-1 Chelsea. No, 3-1 Chelsea. I think the Battle of the Big Bridge Part 2 is going to be amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised, as we have done this season, we've actually turned up. Apart from Arsenal, we've actually turned up this season against the big team. So I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea. Yeah, it'll be interesting how we play. We have to beat Spurs just for bragging rights. I said last week, we got to play for this. We got to play for the badge. I want to see the players playing for the badge and not just playing for their weekly wage and their 8-year deal. I want to see them playing for the badge, for the fans, for the club. So they need to do that. But let me know your thoughts. Give me your predictions, your predicted lineups as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and we'll be back. Oh, and the Linktree link as well. The Linktree link is in the description, so make sure you go there, click that, go to the social accounts and follow on there. And then we'll be back with the review of the game in a couple of days. So stay safe until then, and thank you very